Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Holyoke Public Schools Committee. Today is Monday, October 17th. The meeting will begin now at 6:04 p.m. Roll call, please, Ms. Garcia.
Mayor Garcia.
Here.
Ms. LaFave.
Present.
Ms. Brunel.
I am here.
Mr. Romero.
Here.
Ms. Tenzie Williams.
Present.
Ms. Rivera Colon.
Here.
Ms. Feliciano.
Here.
Mr. Wellahan.
Here.
Mr. Pallamore.
Here.
And Ms. Wilson.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to be back. I just want to go over a few friendly reminders. We're still allowed to continue with the virtual Zoom meetings as well. Governor Baker had signed a bill into law back in June 16 of 2021. It has been further extended from the April 22nd date. Also, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, I am hereby informing all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of the meeting, and the meeting is being live streamed and run live on the city's community TV channel. All right, so with that said, I know we were still waiting for one family, if I'm not mistaken. So if it's okay with the remainder of the board, if we can go ahead and get a motion to move, go to agenda item 3 as we're waiting for the other family. So we have a second. Can we have a roll call? Oh, any discussion? No discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Ms. LaFave.
Yes.
Ms. Brunel.
Yes.
Mr. Romero.
Yes.
Ms. Tenzie Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Rivera Colon.
Yes.
Ms. Feliciano.
Yes.
Mr. Wellahan.
Yes.
Mr. Pallamore.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. So agenda item 3 is public comment. Did anybody sign up for public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, so no public comment. Moving on to, one moment. Moving on to student reports. If we could have Mr. Kennedy for Dean Tech.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Evan Kennedy. I'm a sophomore here in the Dean campus in the Health Assisting Program, and I have a few updates to deliver today. First, this past week, a strategic planning team was started to discuss the 3 to 5 year plan for the school. This team will meet monthly and will be a team that continues to get smarter about vocational programming and will allow opportunities for multiple stakeholders to give input on the direction Dean is going. On the vocational side of things, health assisting is in the process of setting up clinicals with partnerships with Care One and HCC. As a full school community, we are preparing to fully implement our co-op programming for grades 11 and 12, as well as updating/building resumes, also finishing students' OSHA 10 certification, networking with possible co-op placements, and networking for opportunity. The school is going to be putting contracts in place for students who will be close to being eligible. The contract will give those students a chance to still go out and co-op under the agreement if they meet the required eligibility. The school is also working with their partners to put together opportunities for students to engage in networking and interviewing processes. For example, the Holyoke Chamber is in partnership with many of our staff and will engage in a resume writing workshop to prepare teachers to support students in the best practices when it comes to putting together their resumes. We also have a few upcoming events. The first one is that in December, there will be a co-op networking event on December 9th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Holyoke's Chamber of Commerce is in partnership with Dean Campus. Will be hosting a local industry co-op networking fair. The event will bring in 3 to 5 businesses aligned with each of our 9 vocational programs to join the Dean students in their shops for a chance for local business partners to see students in their environment and talk through potential opportunities at their businesses. We are working with Jordan Hart, Executive Director of Holyoke Chamber of Commerce, to make this a success. Secondly, Girls in Trade is coming to Holyoke. Dean will be hosting an event called Girls in Trade, and vocational schools from Western Mass will be attending with girls who are in the construction-related shops and other shops as well. Dean last hosted this event in 2017, and based on that event, we expect approximately 300 people to attend. Representatives of various construction labor unions will be in attendance and will be very interested in recruiting seniors after graduation. A third event is that we are building our community and outreach networking and are planning a career exploration speakers bureau for the week of November 21st. Right now we have 20 professionals from various walks of life coming in to talk to us about professional opportunities. Some are Dean graduates, which will make for a great connection. As everyone knows, it is obviously hard to find workers, including teachers, but we have filled several key positions, including the lead health assistant teacher, a third teacher for auto collision, and 2 teachers for electrical. A new course offered for freshmen and sophomores this year is called College and Career Readiness. It aligns with the school's mission to prepare kids for after high school. That includes the technology Zillow, which helps us to create our own digital profiles for college and career exploration. It also contains social emotional lessons, which helps with both self-regulation, interpersonal skills, and developing as a member of society, which is aligned with our school vision and mission. On the spirit end of things, we have our first Spirit Days coming up. Next week, and we will be having our first dance as well, which is the first dance in a very long time. Halloween dance at the end of the month. So.
Anybody have any questions? I have one. And it has to do with the advisory council, the 3 to 5 year.
Yep.
Who's part of that one? Because I'm trying to think, is that something that we had appointed a school committee member? Because I'm kind of thinking it was Miss Burks at the time.
That information is unknown to me at the time. I don't have the names of the people on the committee, or on the group. I apologize. I might.
Mr. Gates, would you?
This is a committee that we met one time, but we will be reaching out for a member from the school committee. Toto and Dr. Mahoney, Jackie Sheen.
Okay, I just want to make sure it was still the same committee, because I remember it was the vision plan for Dean Tech, looking at 3 to 5 years out. Okay, great. Thank you so much for that information, Mr. Kennedy. And welcome. You are representing Holyoke High School North Campus, correct? Your name?
Lee Santos.
Welcome, Ms. Santos.
So, beginning for the month of October, 9th and 10th graders are receiving rewards based on their howls. The students are picked by teachers based on whether they have shown excellent responsibility, reflection, or participation in their habits of work and learning. Awesome Nights, this is considerably for the 11th and 12th graders. Nighttime occurs twice a month and is broadcasted throughout the 11th and 12th grade classrooms. The teachers in these classrooms join a Zoom meeting and watch Ms. McKenna honor the students who have exceeded expectations and who should be rewarded for their actions/academic performances. The students are chosen by the teachers, and it is very rewarding. It is a very rewarding experience for students to get these certifications as well as HHS swag. For perfect attendance, the last week of every quarter, a student who has perfect attendance receives a slip in homeroom, and this allows them to have a certain treat, whether it is, again, HHS swag or a small ice cream dessert at lunch. It honors their attendance for coming to school every day. For Night of Excellence, it is a weekly staff/faculty reward. HHS has taken the awesome idea of these night times and expanded it to staff and faculty. Ms. McKenna and some administrators come together weekly to pick one faculty/staff member and celebrate them for their amazing work and their contributions done for the school. For the tug of war, the 10th graders won, but the faculty beat them. Many students are looking for a rematch for that. As for the last 3 weeks for Spirit Fridays, it has been Tropical, Twin Day, and Pajama Day. We do have the dates for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and they are November 16th, 17th, and 18th. For senior nights, there have been going very well for volleyball, soccer, football, as well as cheerleading. With the Mass Hire program, it is a program that has been working with student interns to get them well prepared for jobs. There was even a meeting held on Thursday, the 13th of October, to walk them through the expectations of a job, how the internship will work, and how students should present themselves to their mentors when the time comes around. It gives students the opportunities to have a job experience in the career they want to focus on, especially past high school experience. For the virtual excursion, to add on to what I said our following meeting, it's going quite well. The team is working together to embrace the student's perspective on how designing our school can provide a fair learning experience for all students to prepare them for career as well as colleges. As of right now, each school has a mentor that is putting them on the path of success as well as setting the building blocks for what is to come for the sessions in the future. We will look at our school and see how these perspectives may influence the different perspectives that will come from other districts.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Santos. Any questions? Do we know when the ticket sales are going to go for the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, when they start?
I think it'll be the previous week before the 16th, 17th, and 18th.
Okay, great. Excellent. Everybody buy your tickets. You want to watch it. That's a good question. Isn't it like $12 or something, or $15? I can't remember.
I don't recall. Sorry.
We'll let you know. I got you. Anybody else? All right, so guess what time it is? It is time for Student Showcase, Metcalf School.
Yeah, before we get into Student Showcase, I feel like I owe an explanation. My attire today and my assistant superintendent's attire today. No, seriously, I did. I don't know. I want everyone to be aware of, and I think most of you are, that we had a teacher pass away suddenly, unexpectedly, and the Thursday, almost a day before she had passed, she reached out to school leadership and said we should do a jean jacket day. So we organized today for Jen Considine to do a jean jacket day. So there were a lot of, you may see a lot of teachers today, and see that guy over there, his jean jacket on, and myself. But we really are just honoring Jen. She gave 25 years of her life to the Holyoke Public Schools, had the opportunity to go to the service, and it was just unbelievable. I don't think I've ever been to a service that had that many people. So she had a tremendous impact on everyone, and I'd like to just start with a moment of silence before we get into the Student Showcase. Thank you. So today we have Metcalf School. I'm going to call Cynthia Harina up. I believe it's fourth graders, but I could be wrong. And she's going to tell you all about our student showcase today.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Herena, and I'm the assistant principal of Metcalf School. I'm actually going to be calling Juliana Adolny up so that she can introduce the project that she had our fourth graders over at our dual language program put together.
Hi, my name is Juliana Adolny. I am fourth grade English teacher at Metcalf School this year. So I would like to start by introducing the Hispanic Heritage Poster Project that I've created for my fourth graders this school year and its importance. And then I'm going to let the kids present and show what they've done. So the importance of this project goes back to Content Standard 5 in the Math Framework for History and Social Sciences, and it's really for students to research, be their own explorers, and come to their own understanding and internalization of various Hispanics and their contributions to the United States. The past that they've carved out and are still carving set examples for other Hispanics who must have gone through the same transitions and thoughts as to how they can change the world. They are the ones who dare to think differently about the future. So the main purpose of this project is for students to see their identities reflected in the eyes of whomever they chose, and it was really important for me to allow the kids to choose who they wanted to research and learn about, and I gave them a whole sheet of about like 40 different people they could choose, and then share that out with the class. So this week and next week we'll be presenting the projects to everyone in the class. So I think it's essential for our kids to see themselves again in the eyes of others who have or are making history and embracing who they are to see the possibilities for their own lives. And I can start. I can hold the projects up.
Hi, my name is Reese, and this is my project about Laurie Hernandez. Hernandez has been homeschooled since she was in third grade. Hernandez has been part of the Final Five at the 2016 Summer Olympics, where she won gold with Team USA. Laurie competed in the Olympics 2016 Olympics at only 16 years old. She was the youngest member of the Final Five. Laurie is known as the human emoji because of her big smiles and memorable facial expressions. She began her career at the age of 5. Hernandez completed on Dancing with the Stars for the 23rd season and was the youngest contestant to win. Laurie visited my gymnastics at Roots in Westfield. Here's a picture with her and my coaches all together in one group.
I thought that was so cool.
Help me get this up a little.
Put it up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ava Cruz, and I'm here today to present my project on Laurie Hernandez. Yeah. With the 2016 Olympic Games just days away from its opening ceremonies in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, there's one member of Team USA that's already making headlines. 16-year-old Laurie Hernandez. Amazingly, This is Hernandez's first year competing in the senior levels of gymnastics, and she's already making history on the U.S. Olympic team. Hernandez is the U.S. Olympic gymnastics team's youngest member, having only just qualified for the team when she turned 16 on June 9th. As she makes her Olympic debut, she is coming weeks in Rio fans having begun to learn more facts about Laurie Hernandez and her dazzling except in the world of competitive gymnastics. Right. Laurie Hernandez is important because at age 16, she became the first Latina to make it to the U.S. Women's Olympics gymnastics team in 30 years. In honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, she spoke to know your value about her career and her beloved culture. Two important facts about Laurie Hernandez. Laurie competed in the 2016 Olympics at only 16 years old. She was the youngest member of the Final Five. She went to New York University School of Arts.
Tiny little guy.
Yes, I am tiny.
Love it.
So today I'm going to have a project about Ellen Ochoa. Ellen Ochoa is an American engineer, former astronaut, and former director of Johnson Space Center. In 1993, Ochoa became the first Hispanic woman to go into space when she served on a 9-day mission aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery. She grew up in La Mesa, California. Ochoa has the middle child of 5, and neither parent had college degrees. Ochoa graduated from Grossmont High School in Cajun in 1975. Her parents divorced when she was in high school, and she lived with her mother and her brothers. Today, Ochoa is 63, is retired from NASA, and living in Boise, Idaho. These days, she says she realizes her mission was more than just going into space. For decades, Ochoa has spoken to students across the country, especially Hispanic communities, about Ochoa involved in engineering and space exploration. An interesting fact about Ellen Ochoa, she developed the dream of her own to become the first Hispanic woman to venture into space. Things Ellen Ochoa invented. Ochoa is a co-inventor on 3 paints that help scientists refine images that come from space. She invented an optical inspection system, an optical object recognition method, and method for nose removal in images. Ochoa can fly planes and play the classical flute. She went on 4 missions. The names of the missions are STS-56, STS-66, STS-96, and 110.
Hi, my name is Nigel DuPont. Today, for Hispanic Heritage Month, I will be presenting Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente was born August 18th in 1934 in Carolina, Puerto Rico. Roberto Clemente paved the way for other Latino baseball players in the major leagues. Great humanitarian and he loved helping others. Roberto Clemente won 12 Gold Glove Awards, best, which means best outfielder, 4 batting titles, which means best hitter, 2 World Series championships. Roberto Clemente won 15 All-Star games, and he was the first Latino to have 3,000 hits. Roberto Clemente was a Hall of Famer. A street in Holyoke is named after him for his work in the Latino community. Sadly, in 1972, he died in a plane crash on his way to give supplies to Nicaragua after the earthquake. He's usually called the Babe Ruth of Puerto Rico.
That was excellent. I actually want to see the posters, though. I couldn't see them. Can you guys bring them up here so we can see them? Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Questions or comments? Mr. Collmore first.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation people have done here today.
Do the wave at the same time.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Oh.
I like you. Yeah, you're awesome.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. So excited.
Right here.
Yeah.
We'll take a picture of for it.
Awesome. Oh. Right?
Say cheese. Arroz con gandules.
Good dollars.
Oh, wait, hold on. I think somebody else wanted. The parents would like a picture.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Now, don't go anywhere because we have some comments and we possibly have questions. You guys are like, very important right now, okay? Mr. Collmore.
First of all, thank you again for a wonderful presentation. Just a reminder that we talked about the Olympic Games here this evening, and we had Tim Daggett, who performed in the Olympic Games and got a gold medal for gymnastics a few years ago. Also, we had a visitor here in Holyoke quite a few years ago, Katie Coleman, who was an astronaut and went up in the spaceship, and we're very, very proud that she was allowed to come here to the city of Holyoke and present all of us with awards. And I'd like to thank all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Collmore. Mr. Wallahan.
Thank you all for the research. It was well done. I know that Mr. Soto's one of his heroes is Roberto Clemente.
Miss Tensley Williams.
I am overwhelmed. You guys really blessed me today. Thank you so much. Every one of your presentations was excelente. And Dios te bendiga. Okay.
Thank you, Miss Tensley Williams. Miss Rivera Colon, she's going to be on the screen.
Yes. Thank you so much for the amazing presentations. And I have to say that as much as I know about all these wonderful people that you presented, I still learned at least one new fact from each of the presentations. So thank you so much and good job.
Thank you, Miss Rivera Colon. Mr. Soto.
I just want to say congratulations. That was amazing. Made me real proud. Showed your skills in project-based learning. Showed how fast you can read. There was a little artwork involved, some research, and of course, Mr. Wellahan said one of my heroes is Roberto Clemente. I play sports, and I wear the number 21 to honor him. Reese, I played with your father. He was actually, I don't know if you've seen him hit a ball, but he could hit a ball like 5,000 feet. Don't tell him I said that. I never liked playing against him because he was so good. Sherman Tanks and Creative Sports, I think. I don't know if he plays, but he was an amazing player. But seriously, I'm really proud of all of you, and you should be proud of yourselves. It takes amazing courage to show your talents up here in front of people. I know that's not easy.
Thank you so much. And then my question is always a question where hopefully one or all of you will respond to. What made you pick the person? Now, for the first one I saw, you actually got to meet the person. You didn't. I thought there was a picture. Wasn't there?
I was at a different gym at the time.
Oh, that's not good. She needs to come back then. But what made you guys pick the person? Like, what connected you to the individual?
The reason why I picked Laurie Hernandez was because she was also a gymnast, just like Simone Biles, and I really like gymnasts, and I feel like she was a really good gymnast, just like Simone Biles.
Excellent. Thank you. You got this, girl. You got this.
I picked Laurie Hernandez because over the years that I've been at Metcalf, we've learned so much about Simone Biles, Laurie Hernandez, and to see Laurie Hernandez on the paper, I just immediately just circled Laurie Hernandez and took a lot of time to search up a million different things about her.
Well, excellent. Wonderful. Next.
I'm not that sure. So this is another person that I was going to pick, but I already did him before. So I was going to pick Lionel Messi, but I did it when I was in second grade for essay in Spanish class. So then I found Eleanor Ochoa. I thought of doing it because she's an astronaut, and I searched more about her, and she's an American engineer. Oh. And that's why I picked her.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah.
The reason why I picked Roberto Clemente because I like playing baseball, and I played baseball when I was a kid, and when I was researching facts about him, his regular job that he had instead of playing baseball was giving supplies to other people, like earthquakes and all that stuff. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. I want to see you guys come back in what? Next year? Now with whom you're going to pick for next year. So you already banged out two because you did an essay in second grade. If when I was in second grade somebody asked me to do an essay, I'm not even going to have a comment right now. But great job.
He
Thank you
loves
guys.
to do work.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Bye-bye.
All right, now back to reality with this one. We're going to go ahead and move on to Superintendent Receiver Reports.
What an introduction.
We love you, Mr. Soto.
We can follow this. Yeah, we do.
That was just too hard to follow. Sorry.
Yeah. I'll make it quick. All right, so today we have a few things on the agenda. We're going to talk about a quick staffing update. We will be reviewing some of the MCAS results and information that had come out a couple weeks ago, and then providing a quick update on the middle school building project and rezoning process. So if we can go to the third slide, I'll just say that we continue to see staffing challenges. Although we've been able to continue hiring, we're still receiving resignations. We have started the year with about 299 vacancies to fill. and that number's down to 62. Well, we didn't start the year at that. That was the task over the summer, was to fill 299 vacancies, and now we filled about 80% of those, so there's 62 left. And the greatest area of concern is around special education, where we have around 18 known vacancies right now. We still have more teachers than we did last year, but this is where we really struggle to lean in on our inclusion practices. Many of our principals designed their spending plans around the strategic plan, and it's really hard to fully implement that strategic plan when the staffing that we designed to implement it, we're having troubles. They're calling this period of time right now in the world of education, they're calling it the Great Resignation. This period of time will go down in history as the Great Resignation. Particular concern of mine is around the speech and language services. We do continue to have a need there where we need to fill, I believe, five vacant positions. It's really hard to keep up with the demand and the services for our students without filling those. But I know that our special ed chief, Marianne Courier, is working really hard. We do have two potential candidates that are strong, and we're working with vendors to try to fill the need that arises as a result of this staffing challenge. On the next slide, it's just a breakdown by school. I really don't have a narrative for this, but you could see, at the district level, we're 50% filled, and everywhere else we're hovering around 80 to 86%, with the exception of the greens, which are above the 90% fill rate. And then there's some schools in red there that are challenging to fill based on the amount of vacancies that we have. So I just want to commend all of the staff that have stepped up. This isn't an ideal situation. This is not, we're normally closer to 100% staffed when it comes to the amount of vacant positions that we have and being able to fill them. But staff have been amazingly flexible and filling in and stepping up just like they were last year, to make sure that we do what's best for students in the buildings.
Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Wallahan?
Thank you. I know we talked about having a retention program and a monetary policy in place for recruitment early in the year. Was that a success? Do you feel that was a success?
I mean, I wouldn't celebrate any victories at this point, given the state of where we're at, but we have implemented like referral programs. We've implemented sign-on bonuses, and that has gotten people through the door for sure. Well, 100%. There were many people who signed under the condition of a sign-on bonus, and our retention bonus. I don't know. I can't really gauge whether or not that kept people here, but I know people really appreciated it. I know that there's a lot of our Holyoke teachers that are here for the long run. They love Holyoke. They're here because they want to be. And to those teachers, that retention bonus was just a thank you for all of you do for our students. For some, that may have persuaded them to stay, but I can't really tell you. We didn't survey people to ask them why they stayed in Holyoke Public Schools, but I think certainly the retention bonus was very well embraced by both people that had plans to stay anyway and people that may have been thinking about going somewhere else.
One more statement. I know today that I read in the paper there's a school district in the eastern part of the state. I forgot.
Haverhill and
okay.
Malden.
And they're going on strike, I think.
Yeah.
they voted to strike. I'm not sure if they actually went on it yet.
Yeah.
So they're in the process, and I know one of their chief complaints that was the lack of staffing. So that was one
Yeah.
of their issues. They must be working more hours or taking on more classes. So I just want to thank the Holyoke
Yeah.
teachers for helping us out. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I want to echo that. I thank all of our teachers. Luckily, we just ratified a contract that gave our teachers on average a 10% increase, which is an increase that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. I think other communities that weren't positioned with, they might not have gotten the Student Opportunity Act or had the ESSER funding to be able to support something like that. I think they're struggling, but my heart goes out to those communities that are dealing with this stress, and I want to reiterate thanks as well to our staff because we did get a contract ratified. It did come with a significant increase for many of our teachers, and I just appreciate all of our teachers and how resilient they are.
Mr. Collmore.
Yes, I would really like to thank the staff for the excellent job they've done in such a short time of trying to get our staffing here. This report here says you might think it's not terrific. I think it's wonderful, and I think myself really appreciate what you've done and what the staff has done to get it down to 80 people. We ought to be proud of ourselves here in the city of Holyoke that we retained a lot of teachers that we thought might leave our system. So thank you very much again.
Thank you, Mr. Collmore. Ms. Tensley Williams.
Mr. Soto, I know we had a recruitment drive to try to recruit some teachers. Do we have grades that's really understaffed? Any particular ones or all of them?
I think there's pockets of concerns. I don't think there's any one grade. You'll see later in our MCAS result score, like what keeps me up a lot of this keeps me up at night, but
right.
But I'm very particularly concerned with third and fourth grade. Based on the outcomes, you could see how impacted that student group has been by the pandemic and the learning loss that they experience. But special ed, when we talk about staffing, special ed is the biggest concern.
Can we use some of the other teachers to maybe help out?
That's what's happening.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Everybody, teachers are helping out, paraprofessionals are helping out. Every staff member in the building is stepping up for our kids and helping out. They're being asked to step up, and they're doing it.
That's awesome. Good. Thank you.
All right. I do have a question. So overall, now we're still looking for 5 more speech language pathologists, correct?
That's correct. I believe the last time I checked, yes. We should have 12 and we only have 7.
Okay. For special education services, we still need about 18 with a possible of 5 being filled. Is
Possible
that what
of
this
5
means?
more.
So
So
it would be 18
there's
plus the 5?
Yeah, 18 confirmed vacancies and 5 possible.
To take away from the 18, or it would
Add
have been
2.
23?
23, yeah.
Okay. So my only thing is we should always have a plan of what we're going to do, because when it comes to the services that we must be providing according to the IEP is, okay, if we can't do it, then what are we doing to ensure that they do get it so that the student doesn't regress? Nor are we just hoping that, 6 months from now, but that would be so much time that would be owed back, but at the same time, it's so much time that was missed. Now you're trying to catch up later to hopefully get the student to where the goal would have been at previously. So I would like to see more of what are we currently doing to still to meet the need that's on their IEP, so be it if it's the family seeking it through a community provider, and then obviously we'd be paying for it. But the other thing that I've heard of is some places are actually doing telehealth speech services. Is that possibly an option?
Yes. So I don't know if I don't want to put Marianne on the spot because I don't know if she's in, but we are looking at a vendor, Boston Online, I think is the name of the vendor, to provide. And I'll just also say, like, some of these vacancies are because our principals looked at our strategic plan and looked at we're trying to do more inclusion work, and grade level teaming, so that a special ed teacher isn't assigned a caseload that stretches across 3 different grades, like a special ed teacher serving kids in first, second, and third grade. Many of our schools embraced the inclusion model and tried to, with this additional special ed funding, tried to make it so that each grade had their own sped teacher, and the special ed teacher was just a part of the grade level teams. Since they weren't able to fill, all they did was, revert back to, okay, we're covering 2 grades now. So I don't want to sit here and say, like, kids aren't getting any services. Kids are getting service. Biggest concern I have is with speech, which is what you brought up. And we have 2 potential candidates that we're vetting right now, and they're hopeful, which is a contracted service that would be able to support us, but they would provide a speech pathologist and an assistant. And Marianne was meeting with a vendor late last week or early this week to explore another vendor that does it remotely, but we would obviously need to get the family to agree to get that service remotely. And then the third thing we're exploring is talking with our existing staff and seeing if they would be willing to perform services where they're needed at another school, either before or after school, at a significant rate. So I have a meeting with our HR director on Thursday and with Marianne to talk about that as a possibility. So there's 4 things on the table right now that we're exploring, so that we can start catching up with some of the services that were missed. But this staffing picture doesn't really paint, it doesn't suggest that no kids are getting service. You know what I mean? The staff are doing a good job with the majority of our students. One of the areas that we're struggling with heavily right now is around speech.
And like I said, no, I thank everyone for all the hard work that they're putting in. I know we're not the only district going through this. It's across not only the Commonwealth, it's also across the whole U.S. with the shortage in educational professionals. So I get it, and I thank everyone for their hard work. That was
the staffing update.
Yep.
Okay. Can we move on to the Mcas summary?
Go right ahead.
So, this first slide from the Mcas summary is just a picture of just to let you know that throughout this presentation, we're not just going to compare last year's results to 2021's results, because this is the first time that we've actually had a fully administered test. 2022 was the first time since 2019. So you can see in 2021, only half the test was administered in grades 3 to 8. And then in 2020, there were no MCAS tests at all. So the first time, like the first real comparison is to 2019. So throughout this presentation, you'll see some comparisons to last year, but then you'll also see a 3-year trend, which is important, because we did have, on the next slide, there were some positive trends, in terms of math and science when you compare it to last year, but overall, we're not where we were prior to the pandemic. So overall, 2022 showed mixed results when comparing it to last year, 2021. And it's very consistent with the state trends. When you look at trends across the state, what I talked about earlier with 4th grade being a real big concern, that's a concern across the state. Math scores increased slightly in grades 3 to 8 and declined only a little bit in grade 10. But in ELA, scores declined in most grades, and science scores increased when you compare to last year. But like I said, when we're really looking at this data for over a 3-year period, when we look at this data, we're comparing it to 2019 as well, because that's prior to when the pandemic came. And then in ELA, we're really focusing on writing scores, and I think, again, this is so consistent with state trends. Writing scores were really, really low, and we're leaning in heavily on our early literacy initiative this year and next, and that, it's so important now when you look at 3rd and 4th grade scores across the district. You could see the impact that those students have had. They missed a good foundation and base in pre-K and K, and then they're asked to take a 3rd grade test when they missed. There was such learning loss during the pandemic, and just like the state is messaging, one thing that I'm leaning into heavily this year, and what's just clear, like it's so clear that the pandemic had an impact on attendance, and attendance had an impact on learning loss, and learning loss had an impact on our MCAS results. MCAS scores don't really tell the true picture, but one thing that is easy to call out is that kids that missed a significant amount of school performed much worse than kids that showed up to school the majority of the time. The next slide just shows our participation. We saw participation rates increase across the district, across all content areas. Last year we were at 93%, and you could see that we were at 98% participation in ELA. Here's the ELA results. You can see that we are at, in grades 3 to 8, you can see that the percent of students meeting and exceeding expectations is about 9%. And then with a little less than half of our students not meeting expectations, while 42% were only partially meeting expectations. And then when you look at grades 10, grade 10, there were 28% of students that met or exceeded expectation, and 55% of our students partially met, and only 17% did not meet expectations.
Excuse me.
Do we want him to finish presenting, or you want to break it down?
I just have a quick question.
Is it a clarification, or you're going to?
Clarification.
Okay. Mr. Wallahan.
Okay, just to kind of break it up a little bit. Might go on for a while. Thank you. What's the difference between partially meeting expectations versus not meeting? What's the difference between those?
It's the score. So based on what you scored,
Per subject?
you fall. Yeah.
Okay.
Based on what you score, what your average score is or what your score is as a student, you either exceed expectations. There's a range for that. There's a meeting expectations. There's a range, a scoring range for that, and then partially meeting and then not meeting. So later on in the presentation, I'll call up Dr. Mahoney to explain that doesn't mean that our students aren't able to graduate. So many of our students are in that partially meeting category, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to get their diploma. So we have a section of this presentation where Dr. Mahoney is going to briefly describe that.
Thank you.
The next slide is just like a different visual. You can see that many of the majority of our students are in that partially meeting to meeting and or exceeding, and then the red areas are the ones where they're not meeting. You can see sixth grade is definitely concerning there, where over half of our students did not meet expectations. 59%. And then this next slide shows that 3-year trend that I wanted to go over. Take a look at third and fourth grade. You can see in third and fourth grade that had a significant impact on our students. So we dropped 11 points from 2019 in those grades. So these were students that many of their families didn't send their kids to for pre-K and K, or they were during the 2020 year where we were mostly remote. Many of those students were just learning remote, but you can see the impact on learning loss that has had, and you can see the results here. And then so you grades 3 to 8. We saw a 9-point drop from 2019. Only a 3-point drop from last year's results, but again, it's important to look at the 3-year trend. And then the one anomaly here is I wouldn't say it's an anomaly because it's also consistent with what's happening across the state, is 10th grade ELA. You can see that the 3-year change, we're back to where we were for 10th graders, or we were last year. We saw a slight increase of 1 point from the 3-year trend, but a drop from last year. This next slide is really what I talked about earlier around attendance. We have to get our students to attend more regularly. If there's something that really sticks out like a sore thumb in terms of how Holyoke fared with the state averages, chronic absenteeism is that one thing. So the entire state saw a dip in scores, right? But when you look at chronic absenteeism in Holyoke, we saw a significant drop in comparison to other like communities. And you can see the impact that it has. In ELA, in grades 3 to 8, you're twice as likely to meet or exceed expectations if you have an attendance rate of 90% or above, which is, less than 18 absences. Once you hit the 18 absent mark, you're half as likely to meet expectations on MCAS. And it gets even greater when you're chronically absent. They changed what chronic absenteeism was last year to 20%, which means about 36 absences. So any student that was absent 36 days or more, you can see how the scores just dips. I mean, they weren't there. they were missing a lot of the learning, and they still took the same test that students that were there took. So we really need to get back to pre-pandemic numbers when we talk about attendance, and that's gonna, we're putting all these structures in place and system of monitoring. The assessments with ANET and leaning into data meetings and lesson planning. But if our students aren't there, we're not going to get the results that we'd like to see for them. The next slide is math. And you can see here again, the participation rates are up from about 93% to 98%. That's consistent with ELA. And then when you look at the next slide, which is math achievement levels, we have about our grades 3 to 8, we have 6% of our students, and grades 10, we have 9% of our students meeting or exceeding grade level expectations, with 37% only partially meeting and 57% not meeting. In grades 3 to 8, and then in grade 10, you can see 61% there, partially meeting, and only 30% not meeting. That next slide is just you have a question?
Yes, the school.
Hold on, hold on. You gotta.
Yep.
All right. Miss
Working-
Tensley.
Miss-
Okay.
okay,
Miss
I'm
Tensley
sorry.
Williams. Go
Mrs.
right ahead.
Soto, working
Yes.
with the school level team, do we have enough people on that team? Is it a shortage, or how can we?
We could use some. We could certainly use some help based on the staffing levels that we saw earlier. But that I really want to get, when it comes to attendance, I really want a professional to come in that maybe has done some work around like systems and structures and what works. I want, and I'm going to be meeting on Thursday, Dr. Mahoney and myself, with the executive director of Attendance Works, to see if they can come in and just analyze what our staffing levels are, what our systems and structures are, and then make recommendations to us on things that we may not be thinking about. Because Dr. Mahoney and I, we talk about this often, and we talk about things that we could do, but I think we want somebody that specializes in this to tell us if we're on the right track with what things we think might work. Our family engagement team is amazing, but they're not 100% focused on attendance. There's a portion of their day is focused on attendance, and then a portion of their day is focused on family engagement and outreach. So we have more staff than we ever had as it relates to attendance, and family outreach. We now have a family engagement coordinator at every single one of our schools. That hasn't always been the case. We've had city connectors, we've had family engagement coordinators. We've invested in that department heavily to make sure that every school has their own and they're not sharing. And at the high school, we've even added a support staff because there's so many families at the high school. So we have a family engagement coordinator and we have a city connector, and they work as a team to tackle some of these issues.
Thank you.
Are you done with the MCAS presentation?
No.
Oh, okay.
We got to button up math, finish up math, and then finish up science. And it's the same 3 slides. So we got like 6 more slides we need to get to before we get to the high school. That difference between these metrics and meeting and exceeding and actually getting your diploma versus not getting your diploma, like that requirement that the state has. I think it's important for families and for the community to know that there's a difference between this data point and what Dr. Mahoney is going to present on. We can skip over that heat map because it's the same numbers, just a different way to look at it. And then the next slide Sorry, hold on one second. Let me just look at what you. Yep, that's perfect. So you can see here, it's not as bad as ELA in terms of when you look at 3 years ago where we were and the impact, the impact that of MCAS results this past year versus 3 years ago. But still, what sticks out like a sore thumb here is fourth grade. You can see there was an 11-point drop. In fourth grade in 2019, we had 15% of our students were meeting and exceeding, and that number is now down. Although we had a slight increase of 1 point, it's down to 4% only. So that's really concerning. That's the big. I talked about that earlier. Third and fourth grade is really concerning, and that's why we really got to make sure we do the best we can for our earliest learners to catch them up, because it's a domino effect, right? Like they're behind now, they're going to be behind later. We need to make sure we do the best we can to catch them up. And then the same thing with math. It's going to sound like the trend is the same. If you're here if you have 90% or greater attendance, you're 3 times more likely to meet or exceed expectations. And it gets even worse when you're 20% chronically absent, which is about 36 absences. And that's the same thing in grades 10. Science, our rates are close to 98%. They did change the scale in science, they changed the there was MCAS legacy scores back in 2019. They had the old proficient and advanced, and this was the first year that they moved to the meeting or exceeding. So when we get to that slide where we're comparing to 3 years ago, the comparison isn't the same. But moving forward, the comparison, as we go through the MCAS process, we'll be able to benchmark our current results with future results. You could see here in science on the next slide that in grades 5 and 8, 10% of our students are meeting and exceeding, and 14% in grade 10. With in grade 5 and 8, a little over half of our students are not meeting at 54%, and then in 10th grade, 35%. Again, that next slide is just a heat map to visualize the data that I just presented. But the next slide, you can see what the 3-year trend is. So overall, we had a slight increase. You could see in grades 5 and 8, we had a slight increase from last year. But overall, when you look at 3 years ago, we're still down on average 4 points. 3 years ago, we were at about 14%, and we're down to 10%, which is a slight increase from last year, but still a dip. So we got a ways to go before we get back to pre-pandemic levels. Not that that's where, that's not our goal. We don't want to get to pre-pandemic levels, but we want to do better than that, because I don't want to sit here and say that 2019 was great and we had great results. We need to do better than that, and I'm confident in the systems and structures that we're implementing now that's going to help students. Same thing on the following slide is same story. When kids are coming to school, they're doing better on these tests. Significantly better. So now, real quick, next steps. You heard me say this a lot. Attendance is going to be so important. So at the district level, you saw Stephanie Garcia and you saw Jasara Burgos came in at the last school committee meeting, and they talked about our new campaign around attendance. That's district level stuff. So we want to educate our families on the importance of coming to school. We want to get that word out there. but we got to do something at the school level. We got to pay attention to our attendance data at the school level. So those are two things that we're going to be leaning into heavily to help get more of our students to come to school. Dr. Mahoney ran into a teacher in the parking lot that hadn't sent, not a teacher, a mom who hadn't sent her kid to school for an entire week. And in that conversation, he's like, "Why hasn't she come to school?" She mentioned, "Well, I heard the teacher got COVID, so I wasn't going to be sending her to school." So, whether or not that was true, we still have to, let our families know that despite what you heard, we need to get our students in school learning, because when they get back, they just feel further behind. It affects how they interact in class, how they interact with their peers. It just has such a huge impact on that sense of belonging and feeling like you're learning. And then another thing that we're doing, so one of the things we've implemented this year is quarterly ANET assessments. Like the reality is our students haven't been getting enough at bats. I think about my son in baseball, right? And I just picture if I'm putting the ball on a tee and letting my son hit off the tee nonstop, hitting off the tee, hitting off the tee, hitting off the tee, and then I throw him a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, he's going to strike out. There's no way he's going to catch up to it if he's not practicing. So we really need to get our students more at-bats with grade level content, not just through our ANET assessments, but every day. We have this culture that I've been talking about, this pobrecito mentality, where you walk through many of our classrooms and, it's a lot of teachers doing the heavy lifting. And I'm not saying all, so I don't want to offend anybody, but these are some trends that we're noticing. Teachers doing the heavy lifting, very much the teachers speaking in the front of the room, and there's not enough student peer-to-peer interaction and grappling with grade level text. So one of the things that it's something we're aware of, and we're strategizing around how could we make sure that we're releasing work to students, believing in them, holding high expectations for them, and getting them more at-bats with grade level content. And then the other thing that we're leaning into is the relay work. Phase 2 of the relay work is really about supporting teacher teams with weekly data meetings and powerful lesson planning. Those two things are starting next week, and I have great confidence in what in the impact that's going to have on the quality of teaching and releasing work to students and making sure that we're not doing a lot of the heavy lifting for them. And then the last thing is around our early literacy. I've talked about 3rd and 4th grade. We have Hill for Literacy coming in. They're a partnership that has gotten some great results in other districts. We're going to do a lot of learning with them, our principals and our expert teachers and our teachers in grades kindergarten through, is it first or kindergarten through 2nd grade? K-2. Yeah, so our teachers in K-2 are engaging in this professional learning that's really going to lift the quality of our teaching and what students are doing in those grades. And then the last thing, I want to just call up Dr. Mahoney to explain these next 3 slides, which is what I was talking about. And then that's done for the MCAS update.
Move to the slide.
Yeah, if we could just go to the next slide, please.
You want to have a seat over there?
Sure. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, Santos. There we go. I don't want to confuse folks. So the thing about the passing scores and meeting expectations to understand is students receive a score between 440 and 560. And that 120 points is split between 4 different performance levels. So there's not meeting expectations, there's partially meeting expectations, there's meeting expectations, and then there's exceeding. And they split those roughly in half, right? So in English, meeting expectations is a score of 500 or better. So if you score between 500 and 560, you are meeting or exceeding expectations. However, if you score between 455 and 499, you're in either not meeting or partially meeting expectations, but that score can still qualify you for your high school diploma. For students who are scoring in the in the 2 bands of partially meeting, in the top band partially meeting expectations, you pass, you're good to go. So if you score between 472 and 499, you're not meeting expectations, you're partially meeting expectations, but you have met the graduation requirement. The bottom band of partially meeting expectations and the top band of not meeting expectations currently qualify you to graduate if you do 2 things. One, you retake the MCAS exam at least twice, and if you don't score a proficient exam, as long as you take that exam twice and you pass 4 approved courses in that subject matter, so 4 English classes, by the time you're in 12th grade, end of 12th grade, you can graduate and get your high school diploma MCAS certified. It's the same concept in math, although math has a different cut score for what qualifies you for either passing with partially meeting or passing with not meeting expectations. You all know that the Board of Education, the controversial vote that they had earlier this fall was to raise the cut score. So this year's sophomores who sit for the exam, if they score a 455 or better, they will, as long as they take those 4 courses in English and pass those 4 courses in English and take the 2 tests, they can still, that cut score of 455 is good for them. This year's freshmen and the succeeding 4 classes after them, their cut score will be 470. So if they score 470, they'll have to do what we call an educational proficiency plan, an EPP, but they'll be able to pass. But those students who are scoring at 455 to 469 will no longer be able to access coursework as a proxy for passing the MCAS exam. So that's where the state raised. They didn't necessarily change what qualifies as meeting or exceeding expectations. They simply raised the cut score for those students who aren't meeting expectations. And they did the same in math. So if you look at the slides that we have here, you'll see that the blue and the green represent those students who are in the clear. They're either exceeding or meeting or exceeding expectations, or they are their cut score is enough that it qualifies them to they're done. They don't have to retake the MCAS again. The yellow are those students whose cut score requires them to take the exam either twice and pass it with a meeting or exceeding, or pass those 4 English classes. And then the same slide, you could go to the next slide. And it's the same thing for math. And you'll just see that we've got more kids. Those students whose scores are in the red, those are the students who need to take the exam again and at least get to a cut score that would allow them to graduate via the educational proficiency plan. The cut score is also going to be going up for science as well. That happens for next year's sophomores, this year's freshmen. This current school year, it'll be the same metrics used to determine which kids have completed their MCAS requirements and which kids have more work to do.
Are there any questions? We're going to begin with Mr. Collmore.
Yeah. Doctor, does absenteeism have anything to do with?
1,000%. Anthony showed the slide. You know, almost half of our students qualified as chronically absent last year. And that was a year where chronically absent was 20% of the school year. You can't learn if you don't show up. And so we really are ramping up our efforts to get the word to folks that attend today, achieve tomorrow. That's the very simple message that we're trying to put out there to kids and to parents.
Ms. Tensley Williams.
So the 455 cut score with the English and math, if they get them at least up to that, they can pass.
Well, the cut score for math is 469. It's a higher cut score for math.
Mr. Romero.
So I know last meeting, Anthony, you were speaking about our absentee students that just never showed up. Does that kind of reflect in here, or are those not even counted?
These are last year's numbers, so the chronic absenteeism data that we have is last year. But if a student doesn't show up all year, they wouldn't. I mean, we would just withdraw them, or they wouldn't count towards our attendance once we withdraw them from our system.
If they withdraw, but
if they withdrew, yeah.
What's important to note is that our effort to, 6-7 years ago when Dr. Reich came on in, we identified a really super high dropout rate, and so we made a commitment to doing everything we could before we dropped a student from the rolls. And so there are some cases where we've hung on to students long after many other school districts would kick them off the roll. And you can see when we break the difference between the campuses we have here, the Opportunity Academy campus is oftentimes that place where that student who is coming to school 40 days a year is chipping away over the years at graduating. And so there is that tension between get them off our rolls so that we have more students who are performing better, or keep them in the system so that we can hopefully get them to a high school diploma. And I don't think we've yet to, we're not having that conversation about, we just need to drop more kids off so that our scores go up. That's not going to be our strategy.
Not where I wasn't saying to drop kids off like that. I was saying kids that don't show up, just like you were saying, you can't really cut them off until the families say that they're not coming. We still have chronic absentees and stuff like that. I just didn't want those kind of numbers to reflect and bring down the, you know what I mean? To have a clearer consensus of the numbers.
Yeah. At the next school committee meeting, I think it'll be appropriate to bring back where we're at today.
Okay.
In terms of chronic absenteeism, it was rough to do that last month because so few days of school have passed. If you had one or two absences, you were chronically absent.
Yeah, we just started.
So we still got some work to do. Dr. Mahoney asked for an update actually today or yesterday. Asked the high school team for an update on those no-shows.
Mr. Wallahan.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It kind of seems to me that the state is kind of picking the wrong time to kind of raise these scores. Coming off a 2-year pandemic, the kids were learning virtually. Now all of a sudden they're asked to basically raising the bar. So it's kind of a peculiar, kind of a funny period to be raising these scores. I'm not sure whether is there any as like the gateway communities like banded together to kind of protest these
I don't know that there's been
uptick
any
in score.
banding together. I know that there are some school committees that have written and expressed their viewpoint on this to the board. This wasn't just the commissioner. This was something that the DESE's Board of Education voted on. So, you know, I think that other school districts have written them. Other school committees have written and expressed their viewpoint on this issue. I don't know if it's going to do anything. It's going to cause them to do anything.
Yeah.
But I have heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Miss Brunel.
Yeah, Mr. Mahoney, just for clarity, you said so next year's sophomores will face a higher cut score. So if this year's sophomore failed the MCAS and then retakes it next year, are they affected by that higher score, or do they remain in their same bracket until they graduate?
That is a great question, and I'm going to give you an answer, but I'm going to confirm it with Anthony tomorrow when we'll reach out to DESE. But in the past, DESE has maintained the same standard for students when they take the exam as sophomores. So my assumption is that this year's sophomores will be held to this standard through the 3 years that they have the 2 years after sophomore year. But I'll confirm that, and Anthony can get that final answer out to you tomorrow afternoon.
Thanks.
So I was just, Aaron, Ms. Brunel, so I was looking at it online through the DESE website, and it's for the class of 2024.
Okay, that's what I figured it was by that, but I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. Ms. Rivera Colon.
I just wanted to echo what Mr. Wellahan was saying about this not being the right time to do something like this by the state, but also, do we have a plan of what we're going to do to improve that? Because based on past trends, that seems like we're going to be in a rough shape. I understand about raising the standards so that our students are successful upon graduation, but I don't think now is the good time. So do you have an actual plan of how you hope to meet that new score?
Yeah, it's called Moving Forward Together. No, seriously, everything in our strategic plan is all about getting better outcomes for students. And what I highlighted today is like the plan is to re-emphasize a focus on attendance. These results are what they are because overwhelmingly a lot of students did not come to school, whether they were sick with COVID or they were sitting next to somebody who was sick with COVID and they had to quarantine for 10 days,
right?
Whatever, or they were, their parents just didn't feel comfortable, or there's a lot of reasons why it was it was easier. A lot of families were working from home. So like, I know my wife was a little more like, I'm working from home. Yeah, you could stay home. I mean, she didn't do that, but the opportunity was there to do that.
I wanted to say, and to reiterate, right? Asiste hoy, triunfa mañana. That's what we want all our students to be able to do. This just seems like it's going to happen a lot faster. So we just hope that, of course, we have to do better and we have to do the best quality that we can now. I just feel like this is going to be, maybe if anything, is going to be a fire under all of us to get us to the finish line faster than maybe the strategic plan was rolled out to.
Yes, I agree. Then the other two things that I mentioned is this culture of low expectations. We need to stop it. We need to tackle it head on. These quarterly ANET assessments are giving our true assessment of grade level work. What we were doing in the past with 8 star, that wasn't true grade level work. So now with this ANET, and when we roll it out, teachers are going to be able to assess where their kids are relative to grade level standards. But I'm not putting all our eggs in this ANET. Like, we need to make sure that our kids are getting at-bats, regular at-bats, every single day in their classrooms by their teachers with grade level content and not over scaffolding. So it's a combination of that and what we talked about with weekly data meetings where schools are getting together and looking at individual student work and seeing not just like all the inputs of what we do and what we try, but seeing what students are producing and responding to that. And then real powerful lesson planning and exemplar lesson planning so that, one of the things we're digging into is our ELA curriculum in grades 3 to 8. This year we're walking through classrooms and teachers they're following the curriculum. They're doing what we've asked them to do. But we have a lot of new teachers, and the curriculum for grades 3 to 8, or 5 to 8, 3 to 5, we're seeing that it's if you follow it to a T, it's not rigorous, and it's a heavy lift to actually make it rigorous and make it engaging with students. So we're looking at that, and knowing that we have so many newer teachers, that we don't want them spending all of that time doing all of this work to make the curriculum better. How could we take that burden off of them? So we're looking at different ways. And look, we might be having a conversation in the future that this isn't the right curriculum, right? We're not doing that right now, but right now we're grappling with how could we make this higher level, more rigorous, and more engaging, given the curriculum that we have right now. Other districts have done it.
Mr. Collmore?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera-Colon.
Actually, you'll be talking with Jesse tomorrow, you said?
I'll confirm with Desi that the standards for this year's sophomores carry through for them through their graduation. That was the question from Ms. Brunel.
I'm just wondering if we got this report that we're receiving tonight to Jesse and ask for any recommendations on how to improve this.
Yeah, we actually.
I can take that. Yes, Desi is well aware of our data. They get this packet, and I meet with Desi every other week. So once a month I meet with the commissioner, and twice a month I meet with Lauren Wu, Russell Johnson, and they're well aware that we're in the process of doing a turnaround plan renewal. They're there in a very much a support capacity. They're there to look at what we're doing, give us recommendations, and where we need support, they're there to jump in and support, whether that be through funding or through thought partnership, and to say, you know what, you should reach out to this district over here. I saw that their data is great, and they're working with this partner. They're the ones that brought us the Hill for Literacy partnership. So everything that we do, they get an update, and they provide us with recommendations. So they're aware of this. And what I will say is that they like what we're doing. You know, we haven't seen the results yet. Like, this is the results. We haven't seen it, but they like the systems and structures that we're putting in place, the resources that we have for kids, and the system of monitoring progress. That is, something that didn't exist before. So I'm not saying they like everything, because clearly, like, the results are the results, and it's not something that anybody should like. But we're heading in the right direction.
But I'm glad this report goes to them, and they give us recommendations how to improve. That's important to all of us.
Actually, what I think is they get the report first, and then they're telling us where we're at, because DESE gets our results way before the district gets it. So
MCAS results, yes, but school committee presentations, no.
No.
They're
So,
sent
but they're aware of
simultaneously at the same time. When I hit send, you guys get it, and DESE gets it.
Yep. But they're very well aware of where we're scoring right now. I'm going to go with Mr. Wellahan, Ms. Tensley Williams. Then I'm just going to ask a brief recommendation, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the next topic. Okay. Mr. Wellahan.
Thank you. Real quick, just back to attendance. How does the district sync like sports participation with attendance? I know that's been a topic for years that we talked about. Just getting people, the athletes. If you want to play sports, you got to show up to school, and that's an incentive.
Yeah, we do have an eligibility requirements, and attendance is part of that. Dr. Mahoney, you want to speak more on that?
I'll just say that Mel Martin and her team are absolutely 1,000% on it. And if you're late to school, you don't play in a game that day. And every single coach, from field hockey to track and field to basketball, is on board with that. And if you're late on a day where there's practice, your name is on the you're on the bottom of the.
You want some
ladder.
laps?
Yeah, you're the one. Yeah, you're the one carrying gear. You're the one cleaning up. You're the one. Yeah. So absolutely, coaches are leaning into that. That is definitely one place where we have some edge. Yeah.
Which that hasn't changed. That's been ongoing.
That's been ongoing. Yeah.
Ms. Tensley Williams.
A quick question: when we have the retreat, will Liz LaFawn be there?
So I'm not sure about the retreat. I haven't even gotten to the retreat part, but again, our retreat is on the rezoning.
22nd.
So I really do not believe that it has anything to do with MASC. So they will not be present, to my understanding. So go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
So sorry, I know that
I'm
we're
sorry
running
about that.
a little bit behind. Superintendent Soto, one of the things that you pointed out is that you are increasing the amount of ANETs that we have to take. And I think, as much as I dislike to agree with the increase in standardized tests, I do have one question. Will that at all affect, because I do agree that since we are, we do have to take the MCAS, that we should have more, practice in that sense. But will the ANET any way affect our grades or any of that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's an assessment tool. It'll be used as a diagnostic to gauge where our students are. I did get a death stare from Dr. Mahoney. I don't know if I misspoke, but
Thought it as a survey.
Well, what I will say is that there is some conversation around incorporating the second quarter assessment into the midterms, which would make total sense because what you're teaching is what we're assessing on ANET. So rather than having students sit for two separate exams, a midterm and an ANET exam, there is the thinking, and that hasn't been decided yet. But at the high school level, where students do take midterms, we're trying to cut down on as many times you guys have to sit for exams as possible. So we're thinking of combining the two, or at least having ANET be a part of the midterm exam, just for math and English.
Yeah, and that is what I figured, but every student is going to ask me that. So thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. But it's not. It isn't if you get a bad grade on ANET, has nothing to do with MCAS and your ability to graduate or anything. It really is a tool for your teacher to use to say okay, I've taught all these lessons. These are the results of ANET. What are we where are my students at based on everything that we've worked on this year, and then they can take that information and know their students a little better and adjust their teaching accordingly.
So with that aspect, does that mean that the in-room tests that the teachers put together, does that mean that those are going to go down? Because that's essentially what those are, is to see where your students are. So if you're already going to have the quarterly ANET, then does that mean that the in-room tests are going to go down?
Yeah, I think that's what Dr. Mahoney was saying, is trying to figure out a way to marry those two so that we're aware and we don't want to just sit here and overtest. We want to be strategic, and the goal is to really know where students are at and help get them to where where they need to be at, which is grade level standards.
And I would just add to Superintendent Soto's earlier analogy to getting live pitching versus hitting off a tee. The more students get an opportunity to show what they know and what they can do under situations that are similar to the MCAS, the better they're going to be. So we want to be smart about it, but we're not necessarily going to be like, well, we're only going to test A-net and then pull back on other tests. So.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kennedy. So one thing that I just wanted to recommend, because I would like this to come back up at the next meeting, broken down by school.
Okay.
I did attend your meeting down at the Flats Community building. It's called a report card on schools. I think we really all need to look at where each school is standing right now. The other thing is also have the mentality and the thinking right now. When you're looking at these scores, you're seeing the partially meeting and the not meeting. Let's assume that your partially meeting percentage is at the score where they're still not going to pass, right? Like they can't get the diploma, right? That would mean, and if you're looking at the math grade 3, that's 92% third graders in the district. Okay, so if we were to have, let's say 200, right? That's 184 of them that are not even passing, right? If you have that mentality. So we really got to change this around. This is serious. This is not something where we should be like, okay, at least we have partially meeting. We shouldn't have that. We should really start focusing and getting our students out of this not meeting, right? Those partially meeting and not meeting, moving them closer to the meeting or putting them into the meeting and having a very much less percentage in your partially meeting. And we really need to get out of the not meeting. But these scores, and when you start looking them by school, you're going to get shocked by what you see. And it's very sad and disheartening of where we are today. And by the way, that's under receivership, where we are today. Okay? Ms. Brunel.
So I'm sitting here and literally my blood is boiling. I think it's no surprise how Aaron Brunel feels about standardized testing. The overemphasis on the MCAS test in this district drives me mad. We need to stop focusing on how well our students perform on this particular test. You're going to assess them more with more A-nets throughout the year. You can't replace midterm tests with the A-net. They're not the same. You just contradicted yourself. You told our student rep that it's not going to affect his grade, but then said potentially it could replace midterms. And then he asked if it would also replace some, in classroom testing, and there's the potential for that as well. So therefore it would impact their grade. A-net testing is not the same as a chapter test, as a pop quiz on whatever you covered in science this week. I'm sure if you sit down with our teachers and ask them where their students are, they know where their students are. Standardized testing is not the only way to assess our students, and I'm so sick of the overemphasis on this test. We are in receivership because of how we did on this test, and our grades have not gotten any better. Receivership doesn't have the answers to fix this because we are a chronically underperforming district in their eyes. Look at the amount of students we have with special needs. Look at the amount of students that you're expecting to take this test and perform well when English isn't even their primary language. They can't, it's sad. And in my opinion, we are doing a disservice to our students to provide them more at-bats with standardized testing, also that they can perform better on this one critical test that could potentially change their entire future, according to the state of Massachusetts. We need to be advocating with our politicians, with our delegations to do away with MCAS in general. It's a disservice to our students. We shouldn't be forced to have so much weight on this. Of course, our kids are behind due to COVID. I mean, these poor babies, didn't have any social, emotional support. never properly got to learn how to read, but yet, we're just going to focus on their MCAS scores. Let's just focus on their MCAS scores. Like, nah, no, we need to focus on the student. We absolutely attendance 1,000% matters with everything. But once you're out of high school, this MCAS has no effect on your life. And we need to stop overemphasizing that this is all that matters, because it's not all that matters. I understand we have a spotlight on us. I understand that this is what DESE uses to assess us, but where's the improvement since they've been involved? That's all I have to say.
I'm ready to hit the unmute here. I don't even know why I would do that on my computer when all I have to do is just talk to you on the mic. Thank you, Ms. Brunel. We all do know where you stand with MCAS, many of us as well. But what we have to realize is this is what the Commonwealth is about. They're going to, no matter how much we don't want it. Yep. But what I do want to reiterate is when we're teaching the students, it's not teaching to the test, right? And I think that's one of the things where Ms. Brunel has always been about. It's don't teach to the test, but teach. Teach so they can learn for the stuff that they're going to use in real life. Okay, let's move on to the rezoning, updates on rezoning.
If I could just clarify, I did not just say ANET. I said it wasn't about standardized testing. It's about grade level content. So, we need to give our students more at-bats with grade level content every day, not just on ANET. They deserve it. They deserve to be taught at grade level and not be taught below grade level. And I stand behind that comment that we need to give our students the opportunities to grapple with grade level content every day. I'm not going to sit here and give a stance on what I think about tests, but I do wholeheartedly believe in my heart that we need to hold higher expectations for our kids. I want the opportunity as a student to challenge me. Some of our students are, let's just keep it real. Some of our students are bored. They're not challenged. They feel like they're done with their work and they got to wait, and they're not being challenged daily. And I think that we need to do a better job giving them grade level work more often and letting them grapple with it and get better as students. It's not about the lessons you learn. Some students aren't going to like the assignment. Some students aren't going to like writing. Some students aren't going to like math. But the process of critical thinking, being given a problem, and learning how to solve that problem and grapple with it and think about it is the process that you go through every single day. Every day you have to learn how to go through problems and solve problems and think critically and make choices. And that's what we're preparing our students to do. It's not just about the content itself. It's that process of critical thinking and that process of problem solving.
And Mr. Soto, before you get into the updates on rezoning, I do agree with you. In regards to, what is that? Okay. In regards to challenging our students, because I will tell you, one young man told me, incarcerated, who was in special education the majority of his life, what was the part that disengaged him from school was because they made him feel like he was dumb, right? And he felt like, why aren't you challenging me? Do you really think I'm that dumb? I may have some issues in order to be able to do what I've got to do, but you've got to at least challenge me. He wasn't challenged, so at the end of the day, it was hitting the streets, right? So we can't settle to keep our students low and be like, as long as you just do this, we're happy. We've got to make them want to go higher, right? Like we say as parents, we want you guys to do better than us. That's what we want for our children, is for them to be better than us, and that's what we hope their expectations will be. I'm going to let you go ahead, Mr. Kennedy, and say what you're going to say, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the rezoning.
Yes, I know that. I'm sorry that we're behind.
No,
on
that's
this.
fine.
But so yes, that it is true that some students are bored and they're being under challenged. But then there's this whole other section of students who just are being too challenged and don't have the same learning capabilities. There's such a wide variety of students in every school district, and I think that if we're going to raise the expectation, then we also need to add a lot more support for those students who don't learn the same way.
Mr. Romero.
Okay, just to piggyback off him real quick, both those students, the one that's doing really good and the one that's really needs help, are more than likely in the same classroom.
Okay, we're going to move on to rezoning. Like I said, we'll bring this topic up again for the next school committee meeting, but it'll also be broken down by schools. That's my request.
Okay, so we'll bring a report, an additional report just broken down by school. We could talk about it, yeah.
The same presentation that you did for the report card on the schools. Whoever did that
All
slide.
he was doing all he did was third grade. That's all he was.
Oh, okay. Well,
that
if we could
just
do
third
it.
grade.
If we could do,
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm stealing a little bit of Miss Brunel's thunder because she's probably got an update from the building committee as the chair. But we agreed we were going to talk about this every month. So real quick, as far as the middle school building project goes, we did launch the model school process, and we're looking currently at, there's 4 firms that were invited to represent 9 different designs. None of the designs are exclusively middle schools, and they would all need to be adapted. But in addition to the 4, we got Jones Wissett, who was also invited to apply. They were the ones that did our design in 2019. On the next slide, there's we're in the process of doing a designer selection, so you can see here a quick update. We do have a building committee meeting on the 11th where we're getting feedback from the building committee on questions to ask the designers, and there'll be the designers have an optional on-site visit on October 20th, and their deadline to submit any questions to the building committee is on October 21st, and then their deadline to submit their proposals is on October 27th. So the committee itself is going to review all the proposals at November 3rd, and then we'll conduct some interviews on November 17th. So I do want to thank Aaron Brunel and Mayor Garcia for their leadership in this process. It's not an easy process. It's a long process, but they've been doing really good bringing this building committee together and just keeping the public informed on the building process. And then the next slide is just a quick update on our rezoning. As far as our outreach goes, we're in the process of wrapping up the outreach. We've heard from about 443 different survey respondents. You can see a breakdown there of families, staff members, students, and community members that completed the survey. And overall, we've had about 900 people attend 31 different meetings. This weekend, we will be having a retreat, and I think my mom is going to be cooking for you guys, so you'll get to try some of my mom's food. But we'll have a retreat because by on the next slide, you can see by the end of October, we plan on announcing what school is going to be elementary and which one is going to be middle school. Hopefully, we can also announce who the leader is going to be by the end of October. And one thing we're grappling with now is not where dual language, but where full dual language and half dual language is. And then the process for reassignment of staff. Also want to shout out Gustavo and Ellie Wilson for for their participation on the rezoning task force. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your leadership and being involved. Phase 2 is by the end of November. We're going to be doing some more outreach, and this is where we get into the technical, like the schools will be set, the principals will be set, but this is where we work with the consultant M.G.L and dig into the maps a little bit and draw the exact boundary lines, what facilities upgrades we're going to be making to whatever school is going to be the middle school, and then trying to ease the transition of staff and students and just letting them know, what to expect for the following year. I do have some dates posted there. November 1st, there's going to be an all stakeholders group, and we haven't decided where, but it's going to be at 5:30 in person, and then we'll have 2 virtual meetings and a hybrid meeting. So the first virtual meeting is going to be for staff only on November 8th from 9 to 10, and then November 8th from 3 to 4 is going to be for all stakeholders, not just staff. And then on Monday, the 21st, that's our next school committee meeting. We'll also just provide a brief update. And that's it for the superintendent's report.
Ms. Brunel, you have the update on the middle school building project?
No, he just did that, love.
No,
I just had a question about the...
Oh, you have a question. Go ahead. I thought that you were going to have your info if you had any further update.
No, Anthony covered that pretty well. So, he gave a pretty thorough explanation for that. For the rezoning, Anthony, I know I had discussed with you briefly on working on more notification and awareness coming out on the building level. Were you able to talk with your leadership team to see how we can do more outreach within the school buildings?
Yeah, we're, that's something that we're working on this week, just providing a brief update. I have talked to Dr. Mahoney. We haven't reached out to principals yet. We did send everything to the entire community and to all staff and to all families what to expect. But what I anticipate doing is asking our leaders to take that message that we sent out to all families and to all staff and tailor it to their school. So it's something that I want to make sure happens this week. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. The feedback that we've heard throughout this process is that at the district level there's a lot of communication coming out, but that at the school level that they're not hearing much from their principal. And in fairness, I didn't sit here and tell all principals they have to do it, but this is something that, since I'm hearing that firsthand from not only you but every single community meeting we've had, I've heard that it is something that I want to make sure we address and get out.
Yeah, I think some buildings are doing better than others. So some consistency to just make sure that the information that impacts that particular building potentially is getting into the hands of the parents, so it's not such a surprise for them. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes the superintendent receiver reports. We're going to move on to new business, which is the approval of meeting minutes from the 5/26/22 joint school committee city council meetings. Minutes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. And if
Okay.
anyone has any questions, Mildred, when you get to discussion.
Yep, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. So we have a motion by Ms. Brunel, seconded by Ms. Tensley Williams. Any discussion? No, I have a question. Okay, so when you brought it back, because I think you guys brought it back to the joint city council for your approval, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did
Yeah,
you
the minutes
guys-
hadn't been approved by our body before they were brought to this body. So we approved these minutes at our last meeting.
Did you approve it with any correction? Or you didn't see any that needed?
None that were noted.
Okay, so if we look at...
Mr. Willihan's the expert on minutes, so I'm surprised if he didn't catch something.
Yeah. So it's in regards to the MCAS school percentages. If you're looking at in school year 19, you have 120% were meeting expectations. So that should read 12%.
Can we make that edit in the motion, or do we need to redraft the minutes?
Well, just
Motion to amend them.
Whoever did this would just amend it, and I believe that we can go ahead and vote with the amendment, and it doesn't have to come back,
Okay.
but we just got to make sure that it's done. Okay,
Okay.
so now we would need a motion with the amendment.
So moved.
So we have a motion
Motion
and
to
a
approve
second.
as amended.
Okay. So just changing
Sam
that
will take care
section
of that for
to
us.
12%. Yep. All right, so no further discussion. Roll call, please.
Thanks, Mildred.
No problem.
Mayor Garcia,
Yes.
Ms. LaFave,
Yes.
Ms. Brunel,
Yes.
Mr. Romero,
Yes.
Ms. Tensley Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Rivera Colon,
Yes.
Ms. Feliciano, yes, Mr. Wellahan,
Yes.
Mr. Callamore,
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Moving on to updates from subcommittees. As far as I know, Ms. Brunel was the only one that had a subcommittee meeting, and it was the joint city council again at the end of September, correct?
Yes, ma'am, it was. So we had a great meeting. It was well attended. All assigned to the committee attended, as well as some additional city councilors. We just discussed in great length the, I don't want to say attempt, but the well-intended but miscommunicated idea of changing the name of the committee on the city council side. So we discussed at length. We had Councilor Maldonado, Councilor, oh my God, I'm so bad with his last name. I'm so sorry.
Velez.
Jose Maldonado. Thank you. The second last name gets me every time. I apologize. Velez, and he, we just had some really great discussion about his intent with it. He agreed that, changing the name wasn't necessarily the right motion, and that maybe a subcommittee, a separate subcommittee needed to be involved, or if there's, and basically I encouraged him, one of their concerns was that, this subcommittee doesn't meet that often. And I was like, well, we meet as often as we have things on our agenda that need to be discussed. So, I encouraged him and any other city councilors to have, any issues that they feel need to be discussed can be brought forth to the committee. So it seems like for all intent and purposes now, the name of the committee will remain the same. We also discussed an order about ROTC. So we instructed the superintendent to do a survey with students and to see if there's any interest in bringing back the ROTC program, and to look into why it went away in the beginning. So we'll look forward to a report back from him at our next meeting. And then we just had an update. I wanted him to provide those few city councilors with an update on rezoning and school building committee. So we don't have another meeting scheduled at the moment because there's nothing on the docket. Though we will have to meet at least one more time by the end of the year at the very minimum to approve minutes and get that one report back from the superintendent. So again, if anybody ever has anything they want to be seen at that and on that agenda, you can bring it to Mildred for a brief discussion at the full committee, and then we can refer to our agenda. So that can, anything to deal with school city council meetings just as much as a school committee. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brunel. Mr. Wellhand, you're part of the budget committee. So are you guys going to start meeting? The budget is finance. That's like a year-long thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's ongoing. I think it's probably going to be prudent to meet during the school building phase in terms of the getting the right funds from the city council and that type of mechanism. So I think maybe next month or so to kind of get something going there. I'm not sure what the time frame is on school's end on that.
I know the policy subcommittee will be meeting Wednesday. It was rescheduled to Wednesday.
it's getting rescheduled
It's
again.
getting rescheduled again.
Next Monday.
To next Monday. Zoom or in person? Do we know? Okay. We'll find out, and we'll make sure that we post it so that everybody's aware. And then we have the diversity, equity, and inclusion.
We haven't done anything yet. I know that they had something, and I was not able to attend, so maybe Soto. I know Sam, I think you attended, so yeah.
It was that function at the Delaney House. Yeah, it was supposed to be a roundtable discussion. So, but there was
Oh, I
really
only
no
learned to-
discussing. I mean, it was just two presenters just presenting, and then everybody went on their merry way. But I don't know if there's something within the district. I'm sure you have a diversity, equity, and inclusion team that's working at what we're doing. Like you said, we're looking at the inequities and addressing them. So making sure that we have our subcommittee that's a part of it, because the intent is for us to work together, right, and move our district forward and moving it out of receivership. So, okay. Well, that's good for the updates from the subcommittees. We're going to move on to the announcements. There is the announcement. Friendly reminder, the school committee retreat, which will be based on the rezoning, will be this Saturday at 10 a.m. And I guess you guys decided to go with the Gary Rome. Okay, so we'll have it there. I did get from the special education department, going to pull up their announcement. The CPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, is hosting the annual trunk or treat on October 26th. Please mark your calendars from 6 to 7 at Holyoke High School parking lot. I'll tell you, I enjoy attending it every year. So many kids, so many families, everybody's having a great time. So I highly encourage those that can attend and participate. Greatly appreciate it. Anybody, though, that is interested in hosting a car can please reach out to the Special Education Department or even Kate DeSanto. She's a parent that continues to help us through the process of the Parent Advisory Council until, I guess, new officers are elected. I can't think of any other announcement. I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Soto.
Yeah, DPAC also meets, the District Parent Advisory Council meets tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and that's via Zoom. And this isn't something that that families can attend, but we do have HPS intramural volleyball games going on at the Boys and Girls Club. So, again, not something that we can actually, nobody from the public can go watch. But I did want you all to know that's a thing. We have a good intramural sports program for our middle school students.
The DPAC, is there a Zoom link that families can get a hold of for this? Let me look real quick, because I know somebody did look it up and they couldn't pull it. You did it? Okay. All right. So I will let them know. Excellent. Any other announcements? I know the Hall of Fame is coming up, right?
Yeah, that's on November 5th, I believe.
November 5th?
Let me see.
The reception is this Friday, isn't it?
They're talking about the high school inductees.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saturday, November 5th.
Saturday, November 5th.
Okay. I know in the past the school committee has sponsored a ad in their program. I don't know if we've been formally requested that from them or not.
I haven't heard. I think Kelly
Yes,
Kern.
actually, sorry, you guys. Someone did reach out to me to ask, and I was supposed to bring it up, and I totally forgot. So I'm glad Jay just said that. So, someone reached out and asked if we'd be interested in doing the ad, and I said, as a school committee body, we might be. So Mildred, I'll connect with you on that, and you can send out an email.
Yeah, because I think it's already coming to the end. So
might be too late. I don't even remember who asked me.
I think there's time left to.
Okay. All right, so we'll look into
sneak that in. Maybe like the same size as last year. The price
we do
might
it
have
every
changed.
year. The same thing that we do every year, we'll just do it every year. If everybody's in agreement. Okay.
The retreat is 10 o'clock.
The retreat is at 10 o'clock. Anybody have any further announcements that, no? Okay, great. Well, with that being said, announcements is closed. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
So move.
Second.
All right, so we've got Ms. Tensley Williams who said yes. Mr. Wallahan made the motion, seconded by Ms. Brunel. Yeah, okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Garcia,
Yes.
Ms. LaFave,
Yes.
Ms. Brunel,
Yes.
Mr. Romero,
Yes.
Ms. Tensley Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Feliciano,
Yes.
Mr. Wallahan,
Yes.
and Mr. Callamore.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
You
This-
skipped me.
Ooh, go back.
Yes.
It did not pass unanimously.
We can't skip you. We love you.
All right. Now, motion passes unanimously. Meeting is adjourned, everyone. It's 8:15 p.m. Thank you for coming. See you next month.
Good night.